I know we're only 19 games into the NBA regular season, but I'm not sure anyone is talking about the Cavs like this. Hey, welcome in. This is Jeffrey from the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. Before we get into this upload here today, make sure you hit that like button, comment down below. These videos do take some time to make, edit, do the script for, record it, and upload, so any support is appreciated. I do thank you, and let's get into this one. So we're almost 20 games into the Cavaliers regular season and sitting at a 10-9 record upon recording this video. It is not exactly the ideal start that we would like as Cavs fans. Now, let me preface the entirety of this video by saying I do understand the injuries. I'm very well aware that the strength of schedule has not been a walk in the park for our Cavaliers. But with that being said, I want to put this out there. I am a process-oriented observer of Cleveland sports. I could sincerely care less about the results of a contest if I don't feel like the process was done in the correct manner. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm going to tell you that, yeah, we saw some good regular season basketball last year, and that type of play, whether on the defensive side of the ball, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, did not translate to the postseason, and that was pretty apparent. So, I want to make this video, I want to put it out there, and I just want to give some general points here as far as how I have viewed this team through 19 games. And I'm going to say things that are going to upset people. That's fine. Tell me down below if this upsets you. Any point, I want a timestamp, what's wrong with it, what you agree with, and what I might be missing. Let's go with general point number one. And I'm coming off the top rope here. This roster needs consolidated. And it's not a personal vendetta against people, but I have reasons. Hear me out. Listen to me. I don't have anything personal against Caris LeVert and Isaac Okoro, but my estimation from a lot of the games last year and through 19 games this year is that while they may be talented NBA basketball players, you could agree, you could disagree, while they might be athletic NBA basketball players, I think that is, pretty much the consensus is that they are two athletes. I do not see a role for them on this team. Now, that could have two issues. That could be a player issue, or that could be a JB issue. We're going to talk about him later on in the video. So if you're intrigued about how I feel about JB, hold on, keep watching. We're going to address it at the end. You won't want to miss it. So what do I mean by this? When it comes to a consolidated roster, I just have seen that we have guys who are out there playing basketball. There's no team unity. There's no rotational fortitude. I'm just not seeing it. So I have some interesting proposals. I have some interesting trades. You have to identify a team that is not playing very well this season, definitely in tank mode, and who you could take from that team. Now, let me move on to what I mean about roster consolidation in a more detailed sense. We do not have one-for-one backups on this team. You might be wondering, what does that even mean? JB's coaching philosophy from a rotational standpoint is keep your best players out there and play them all night long. Okay, I know they're trying to get rid of load management. It doesn't work. We are not in the era of super teams anymore where your top two or three guys if you're lucky, two guys are superstars, carry you night in, night out, and you know they could do that in the playoffs. That was 10 years ago. That was maybe even 5 years ago. Look at some of these teams that have won the finals recently. Sure, Denver has the MVP. That obviously helps. Jamal Murray is a great secondary piece. Everyone else is a good to great role player who plays their roles. They have one-on-one replacements. Same way with some of the Giannis Bucks teams that have had success in the Eastern Conference. I will tell you, it helps having the MVP. I will not discredit that. I understand we do not have an MVP caliber candidate as far as the typical mold. Donovan Mitchell is obviously one of our best players. Is he a part of the MVP conversation? I think that's a little bit far-fetched, even though he has good numbers. So let me go further. If you consolidate the roster, And if you don't like my selections for who to move, make your own selections, but fit it into my mold. Let's just do a thought process. Let's do 1-for-1 backups. You have Darius Garland, and Craig Porter Jr. comes off the bench to back him up. What happens now? Think about when you watch the games. What happens now? DG goes out, Donovan goes to the 1. Maybe we put we move Strus over a position. Dean Wade comes in, Niang comes in. We see these games recently, the Portland game, where Craig Porter Jr. doesn't even see the floor. I need competent backup 1-for-1s. Let's keep it going. Donovan Mitchell's obviously going to be your 2. Let's say that we could get some assets off a team who's not playing very good basketball, probably won't play good basketball all year like the Chicago Bulls. If you could have a trade package, LeVert and Okoro, and you have similar returns, you might even be able to keep one of those guys and make this work, in theory. I don't think it works with both of them on the roster. My personal opinion. Let's say Donovan Mitchell's your starter, Alex Caruso comes off the bench for you. Okay, I have a competent one-on-one replacement. It's not like, there's no such thing as a backups. We kind of just have a loose roster. Everyone slides down a position. Maybe we slide up. Mobley's in the 5 now because Allen's off the floor. And, Tristan's not competent. We don't want to play him. And Damian Jones, we know he's basically a dead man walking as far as in the rotation. Now it gets a little bit more tricky. You have Strus at the 3. He's played a small forward his whole career. Keep him there. Fine. Probably my MVP of the season for the team as far as making things work and having offensive identity and not just chucking up shots even though your stats are good. Niang comes off the bench, replace him as a 3. Niang is not going to play a 4 in a playoff series when, we need to out-rebound the other team. You see New York in the playoffs again, and we have Niang playing 4, considerable minutes of the 4. Good luck with that. This is where I think you could maybe keep a Karras or an Okoro and play him at the secondary or tertiary level at the 3 position. You might be able to get Caruso and someone else I'm going to mention from Chicago without moving both of them. I think it'll be interesting, and we'll see. Moving on to the 4 position, Evan Mobley at the 4 position. And this is where it gets a little strenuous because of early injuries and injuries in the past. Dean Wade is the clear backup here at the 4 position. I think he's a lot more suited at the 4 than Niang. I think he could dabble down low and get rebounds, and he gives you a perimeter defensive threat. My personal opinion, due to availability, due to just the eye test, I think he's been a better perimeter defender this year than Isaac Okoro. Argue with me in the comments. Number 5, obviously, Jarrett Allen. Notice how I didn't change the starters. You're going to have people come on here and say, blow it up, get rid of Mitchell. And if you make a valid point for that, I'm willing to sit there and listen. I'm not going to write you off as crazy if you think that you could flip Donovan Mitchell into huge assets. I'm not there yet. Jarrett Allen at the 5, another player from Chicago or similar. We receive Andre Drummond in some sort of trade package. So you either get Caruso and Drummond or some sort of similar type of setup. So now you have backups where it's an actual rotation. It's not, okay, we want to give our starters a blow. What should we do? Let's throw LeVert and Okoro out there. We really have lost all of our offensive identity. Not to mention that the starters don't even really have an offensive identity at the moment. We don't have a primary ball handler who wants to set up an offense. Ricky Rubio is unlikely to play all season considering we've heard nothing from him, and that's a whole different situation. So you have people, as far as that hypothetical roster, who fit in a system, who play a role, and who could all be good to great role players. I think Andre Drummond could be a lot better of a role player than Tristan Thompson, and I think Tristan's had a pretty good season, believe it or not. It's been a little startling. I think Alex Caruso gives you the defensive mentality that you still want. He's somebody who could fit into a system, could play his role, and we'll go from there. I just gave you 10 guys. You have room for an 11th? Sure, maybe. Do you give minutes to Emoni Bates? I'm not too certain. Do you give minutes to somebody else from the G League? Is that a Merrill type of role? Can't believe I'm even saying that. Is that an Isaiah Mobley type of role maybe some point this, as far as this season? It's an optional thing, but I just gave you 10 competent pieces really quickly that the rotations are easy, the substitutions are easy, the minute distributions are simple, and JB can't even do that for us. And you guys thought that, maybe I was going to skip them. Absolutely not. What you've all been waiting for is the JB talk. And I have a couple of points here, and we're going to wrap up the video. Number 1, an absolute disservice to the franchise. And I get it. You might not have leaks. You might not have reports. It may or may not have happened. who knows what the truth is. If somebody told me that Koby Altman did not at least inquire about Nick Nurse or Budenholzer in the offseason, that's a disservice. You had guys on the coaching free agency market, so to say, that have won championship rings. You're telling me that JB was better after you get dog walked in 5 games in the playoffs last year as the better seed as a home team? I hate to break it to people, and I know I'm aggressive, but I'm fired up because I want more rings in this city. I want, banner hanging parades. I want parades downtown. I want it all. And that's what I think we deserve as fans. We deserve competent decision-making, competent coaching, competent play. It's not always going to happen. I understand that. It's part of fandom. But you're telling me that you're just seeing this coming? No way. If you're on the fire JB train just as a late, I hate to break this to you, you're a year and a half late. I was willing to give him a pass for the play-in games because I don't think we were in a position to make noise that season, and that was like a cherry on top of a nice season, even though you dropped both of them, and you could have had a chance for a playoff, series. But last year, absolutely unacceptable to not at least do your due diligence in the off season. Now, let's take a 180. You don't really have those options anymore. At least it seems that way. You have some lesser known coaching talent, and then you have guys who are already on your coaching roster at the moment. Here's the issue, and here's why I fear, and I'll say it again, I fear that JB's job is pretty much safe, at least for this year. I don't think that there's a clear-cut coach on the market, unless there is, comment down below, that has a clear-cut better resume than JB right now. And I'm sure I'm missing somebody who maybe hasn't coached in a million years and there's, whatever. Do you turn the reins over to JJ Outlaw? Do you turn the reins over to Luke Walton? Well, I don't think JB's the guy. You still have to think about it from an organizational perception standpoint. If you give the reins to Luke Walton and it gets worse, Altman's losing his job. Plenty of people are losing his job. Gilbert's coming in and cleaning house, and he definitely should if that's the case. However, like always, I'm not here to complain only. I do have a suggestion. I'm sure you've heard the name potentially, but I would be on the lookout for a man by the name of Dave Joerger, former NBA head coach, had stints with Sacramento, had stints with Memphis. He is an assistant coach for the Philadelphia 76ers right now in the league. Let's just go over some stats that I compiled here. Dave Joerger, 6 seasons as a head coach, 245 wins, 247 losses. All right, you might be saying, nothing too crazy. He's got, he's below 500. You're right. Let's switch over to JB. And JB's been a coach for 8 seasons, not full seasons because he had the interim stint. He had an interim stint prior to the Cavs. He only coached so many games. The first year he was with us, like 9 or 10 games, and he's had 10 games this year. JB, through the totality, the average of 8 seasons essentially, 217 wins and 265 losses. So that is just to put out there, to keep in the back of people's minds. I think your prime coaching candidate, if JB does get the can, is if you have concessions that Philadelphia approves, whatever loops and you have to jump through, loops and hoops you have to jump through, that Dave Joerger would come and be the coach for this franchise. I think it's a name to look out for. I don't see Outlaw and Luke Walton being viable. Not saying that they couldn't work, but if they don't work, it looks really bad. With that all being said, thanks for sticking around. Like I said earlier, subscribe button, like button, comment down below, share with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.